Branson, are you alive?
Yes, I'm alive. I've had a bad weekend, man. My wife was hospitalized.
No way. Wow.
Yeah, man.
Is she okay?
Yeah, she's getting better. They might release her today if she can keep her oxygen up.
Oh my God. She
Yeah.
didn't have to go on a ventilator, did she?
No, that's the good thing the doctor said. Us being vaccinated, that probably stopped her from being on a ventilator.
Wow.
Um, they were able to just put her on oxygen and to try to help her with her breathing, but she was running a 102.9 temperature for over 24 hours, and
Oh,
I finally forced her to go to the hospital.
wow. How about you? How are you?
I still have a constant headache, but other than that, and a little nasal sound, but other than that, I'm pretty good. Um, it was like having a really bad flu in the beginning with
Yeah.
a terrible, terrible headache, but now it's just a lingering headache. Other than that, I'm getting not contagious anymore. So me and my boys have isolated ourselves. So we've been just taking it day by day. So
Yeah. Well, I'm really sorry you had to go through all this. It's just unbelievable.
yeah, it's like it's really made me really focus on how to do business and even deal with people in general differently. Um, because I don't even know if my wife will be able to go back to work anytime soon. So
What does she do?
she's a nurse. She's a nurse.
At,
And
Bi- at Biden?
no, no, she works down at Caswell in Kinston.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Wow.
So
Unreal. Really.
yeah.
Wow.
So I don't even know how they're gonna put kids back in school.
Yeah. It's a shit show. Is the bottom line.
Yeah.
You know. Well, glad you're here. Hi, Jennifer. Hyde. How are you?
Hi, Dennis. How are you? I finally made it.
Yay.
Yay.
Fantastic. You have any questions or anything like that?
No, not yet. I'm still just catching up on the other classes.
Okay. Well, we're glad you were able to make it, and hopefully it'll be worth it.
Yeah.
So, okay. I like this category design stuff. I know it's kind of weird, but I like the idea of creating space where you don't have any competitors or very few. So I like that.
Yeah.
All right. Branson, is that you beeping or is that me?
That's probably me.
Okay. I was just checking. It sounded like a fire alarm. I always changing the damn batteries in those things all the time, you know? I'll be right back. While we're waiting around, I wanted to share the information about RAW Plastics. It's in our class. I don't know if you're familiar with them or not. It's a company in Greenville, fairly new. They actually get people together and they go and get plastic trash out of the river, out of the Tar River. And they, believe it or not, I think they said that they get 1,000 pounds of plastic.
Wow.
Often they go. And then what they do is they take it and they take it to somewhere, some place that they have, and they put it all on the floor and they sort it and take, so I guess there's 7 or 8 or 9 categories of plastic, like number 1, number 2, so forth. And they can deal with 3 of those categories. HDPE, I think, is number 2 and so forth. Anyway, they take the stuff that they can make and then they basically shred it or otherwise process it. And then they put it through a variety of machines that they have to create products. They make bowls, they make jewelry, all kinds of different stuff, which they then sell. And the products are 100% made from recycled plastic that they have actually taken out of the Tar River and other places, I guess. So they went live on Friday on Pop Shop Live, and it was unbelievable. It was so good. I could not believe they're just naturals. You know, it was, even though it wasn't rehearsed, it was their first time. They were hysterical and did a really good job. They got more than 50 people subscribed to their show, which means every time that show goes live, they'll be notified. And they made, I think, about 10 sales as well on their first show. But if you go to our YouTube channel, I've got an excerpt of it, which I recorded. I think you might get a kick out of it. They're just really funny, really natural. They're good friends, the 2 guys, and you can tell, and real natural back and forth, and very, very entertaining, I thought. So I encourage everybody to take a look at that. It's a good, if nothing else, it'll show you some ideas of how you might want to do your show if you decide to go live. You'll be able to, one of the things they did really well, I think, was if you go on Pop Shop Live, you'll see that a lot of the sets, if you will, or the locations where the shows are held are actually not very interesting. They're sometimes it's just somebody's room or, you know, just kind of boring. And these guys set up outside. So it created a tremendous environment with the background of the Tar River and the trees and this really beautiful scene. I thought it made for a really neat set for their show, which I had not seen anybody else do. So at any rate, any of you who are considering it, it's a good place to take a look at maybe a little bit of a different approach to live streaming. I particularly recommend John Arnold and Chris Neal take a look at it because it is it's not food, it's you know, recycled plastic items, but there was some interesting things that they did just naturally that I thought were pretty cool. So, all right. Well, I guess we'll go ahead and get started. We're going to go a little more in depth on a subject that we covered the other day. Not that we covered, that we talked about, I guess, more accurately. And that is category design. So today we're going to talk about more the strategy of how to use category design, and I think you'll find this stuff real helpful. We have a handful of short videos that we'll take a look at, and then we'll answer any questions that you all have. But these are pretty short, and I think they're fabulous. I hope you like them as well.
Hey everybody, I'm Mike Damphouse, partner at Category Design Advisors. Today we're going to talk about category design best practices for those of you that want to roll your own project. We obviously do it for a living, but a lot of companies can't afford to pay us what we'd like to command. So we're going to show you how to do it, and hopefully you can work with your team and create your own category. So before we start, how many people in this room walked in here today thinking category design is about messaging and positioning? Pretty common. Category design is not marketing. But category design is not positioning and branding. In fact, if I'm talking to a company, especially if the CMO calls me first, and they start talking about messaging and branding and positioning, I basically say, give the book to your CEO and we'll talk in 2 weeks. Category design is a company strategy, and CEOs see that. And if you remember, marketing is traditional, compete with your competition, say why you're better. Our software is this much faster than your software. Category design is about marketing the problem. You market the problem, then you worry about the solution and communicate that. And if you don't set yourself aside as different, you're just another player in the market. And that's what category design is all about. You're creating a new place in people's minds to put you, and a new way for them to realize they have a problem that maybe they didn't know they had. It's company strategy. Kevin went over this in the overview presentation, but essentially most companies focus on product design and company design. Adding category design to this actually treats all the other aspects of running your company in a way that you focus on category. Every decision you make, whether it's a marketing decision or an engineering decision, even a hiring decision, category is going to give you a different way to position your decision making in a company and running a company. It's making decisions. When we talk to potential clients, it's funny. They look at the contract and they say, oh, what are you going to deliver to us? And it's like, oh, well, we're going to deliver a category name. We're going to deliver a point of view. We're going to deliver a category thesis. We're going to deliver a lightning strike plan. And the biggest deliverable is going to be helping you make decisions. And they always think that's ethereal. They're like, you're going to help us make decisions? But every project we've done, and yesterday was a great example, company just acquired another company. First time the executive team was in a room together, the whole day was nothing but making decisions. And those decisions are going to lead you to creating the best category you can create. Hey everybody, I'm Mike Damphouse, partner at Category Design Advisors. Today we're going to talk about category design best practices. So where do we start? For those of you that want to roll your own project. Two people in a basement come up with an idea. We obviously do it for a living. A little demo code. A lot of AWS can't afford a prototype.
That's what we like to command. And then they say, what are we going to do? We're going to show you how to do it. And hopefully you can start with your team. This is in the book. Start with Dave's 3 questions. This is Dave Peterson. So before, one of the other co-authors of Play Bigger. And Dave's 3 questions are pretty straightforward. Essentially, the first one is, what problem do you solve? Second, if you solve that problem, what is the category?
Sorry, folks, I'm having
And third,
a
if you
technical
build the
difficulty.
category,
Hold on.
how big is it? So let's look at, first thing you want to do is focus. So where do we start? Two people in a basement come up with an idea, write a little demo code, go to AWS and create a prototype. And then they say, what are we going to do? What's our mission in life? Start with, this is in the book, start with Dave's 3 questions. This is Dave Peterson, one of the other co-authors of Play Bigger. And Dave's 3 questions are pretty straightforward. Essentially, the first one is, what problem do you solve? Second, if you solve that problem, what is the category? And third, if you build a category, how big is it?
So let's look at it. First thing you want to do is focus on the problem. A lot of people focus on the solution, but what you want to do is focus on the problem and think to yourself, is this a market insight, a technology insight? You know, Uber was a market insight. We are sick of riding in dirty, stinky cabs. They don't come by when I need them. How nice would it be if I clicked on my phone and actually got a car to show up for me? Technology insight, VMware. We have all this computing power sitting in our IT centers. What if we could harness that and create multiple virtual machines? Technology insight. And then lastly, what's the emotional aha? What will your customers understand and be felt like they're getting punched in the gut, that they have a problem they need to solve? And if you think that way, you're going to end up being able to focus on the solution in such a way that you're going to develop the products differently, you're going to communicate to the market differently, because people understand their problems. If you're having to educate them on your solution, they're not listening. Here's a great example. Bill Gates. In the late 90s, and I remember when it came out because I wanted one, they announced the tablet. And all the tablet was a notebook computer that you flipped down and you had a flat screen and you could touch it. And the way he communicated this to the market was, you can walk around with this and you can do things on it with your finger. Then you had Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs, when he announced the iPad, he essentially said, look, we all have computers, we all have cell phones. There's something in the middle. And that new category is the iPad, is the way he introduced it. It's on YouTube, you can watch it. But what's interesting is the iPad is still a flat computer that you manipulate with your finger. But it was focused on consuming media, reading, watching videos, just quickly while you're sitting in your living room, picking it up, looking at the news, or look at your calendar for tomorrow. And it took off like wildfire. He focused on the problem. You have a clunky computer and you have a little phone. What if I give you something a little bit more comfortable to work with? Still just a tablet. Bill Gates missed it. Second of Dave's question, what is the category? So a category is a container where people store the problem and solution that you've mapped out for them. And those cognitive biases actually cause the category to be ingrained in their thinking, and therefore they're more inclined to buy your products. The category name is not that important to the whole process of cognitive biases, believe it or not. Category name should be utilitarian. People should be able to use it. If you create a category called Intelligent Security IT Specialty Platforms, who the hell's ever going to say that? And if they acronymize it, you're never going to know what it means, right? Whatever that was, ITMS BC, whatever. So basically, think of the category name as your best attempt to label your category. It should be good and concise, but it's not going to end your project if you're trying to create your own category. Here's a perfect example of something simple and obvious. Noise cancellation headsets. It says exactly what it does. Everyone knows what a headset is. It cancels out the noise. And if I said to you, what brand of noise cancellation headsets do you buy? Most people in the room are going to say Bose. And that's because they established the category. Don't lose sleep over developing a category name. We just did a project. It went 3 months. We like to come up with a name kind of in the middle of the process. We didn't come up with the name until the day of the lightning strike planning. It was just getting in the way. And if it gets in the way, it'll prevent you from thinking through all the issues that take you to the category point of view, which we're going to talk about. It's just a name. Here's a tip. This is something we do in projects once in a while. If you're stuck on a category name, or your co-founders and executive team are sitting in a room and everyone's debating what makes sense, hand out yellow stickies to everybody and say, put down 5 words that you think are, should influence a category name. Have them do it. Everyone writes them down. Say, okay, now rank them from 5 to 1. So everybody ranks them. They choose the word they thought of first. It always puts a 5 in. Then take those words, build a spreadsheet. And if a word is ranked as a 5, put that word in 5 times. If it's ranked as a 2, put it in twice. And then do that for all the yellow stickies and keep building this spreadsheet, and then copy it into a word cloud generator. And then you look at it and you can visually get some creative ideas on what words might make sense. Here, connected is important, intelligent is important. What's interesting is the word that the client was focusing on was advertising. And this exercise caused them to throw it out the window. Trademark. Everybody wants to protect everything they do. IP lawyers live in big houses and have big boats. Category design, you don't protect it. It's a gift to the world. You want your competitors to use your category. If people don't think of the category as just a prolific common thing, then it'll be yours and you'll be the only one that has it. And sure, Google will put you at the top every time, but your competitors and the analysts and Gartner, they'll never create a magic quadrant titled my category name if it's trademarked. So come up with something general and think about your competitors. What category should we create that's going to be different? You're going to be able to educate the market, and you'll eventually, because of the way category design works, you'll become the leader. But if you protect it so much that nobody else wants to touch it, then you're going to fail. You'll fall on your face. Now, if you have a lawyer or if you have technology that is very protectable, it's IP, you're just, falling on your face when you tell your lawyer, we don't want to trademark this or register it. There's a process called provisional trademarking. So this is the out. If you got an investor that demands you to do this, file a provisional trademark application, then just put it in the drawer. And in 3 years, when your competitor goes to try to register it, you can pull it out and it's yours. How big is your market? So in the book, there's a concept called your suit size. You wear your suit today, your software does something for advertising, and it does it for consumer marketing. But what if your application someday could also do it for business-to-business marketing, B2B? That's the suit size. You put the suit on today that fits, but what if you made it a little bigger and grew into it? That's what the concept of suit size is all about. So don't restrict your vision. If your universe is this big, but it could be that big, create a bigger category. A $0 billion market, VCs love that. A $0 billion market means nobody else has figured this out yet. That's the kind of market you want to go after. So you've come up with a category. What do we do next? You want to mobilize your whole company, your ecosystem if you have partners, and you want to go out and do what we call a lightning strike. And some people misunderstand how the book conveys lightning strikes because they talk about really elegant, marketing campaigns, big events. Lightning strike can be simple. It can be 5 very significant people that you want to get in a room together, and you tell them about your story, your point of view, and you drop a press release on PR Newswire. You bought dinner and you spent $700, right? You can go the other way around and you can hijack a show. You can get the biggest booth, advertising Wall Street Journal. You'll spend $500,000. You can get just as effective, because if you do that show and you end up with 5 clients, you could have had a really nice dinner and ended up with the same 5 clients. But a lightning strike is the concept of setting the category agenda and starting the conversation. Get people to use your taxonomy and your language. Get them to tell your story. And once you do that, the word of mouth is going to grow. Lightning strike and mobilization is setting a flag on the hill. It gives everybody in your company a destination, a goal, something to march to. It's a process of changing the way people think. When you think, the example we used earlier, if you're thinking advertising and you need to be thinking something different, what is that different? Think about what that different might be. So here's some examples. If you want to change your audience, your employees, get them to change from their old way of thinking to a new way of thinking. So you might look at something. Can we increase revenue? Can we be more relevant? But the key is to shift people away from their existing thought process. If they keep thinking, and I'll go back to the VMware example, if they keep thinking, oh, I'll just buy another computer, I'll put it in my IT center, get them to think, no, I have idle computing power, I'm going to do a virtual machine. So you get people to shift. We call them in the book Frodos, from to, and get that shift happening with everything you communicate.
Okay. I'm going to stop there with the videos. We'll pick it up at another time, the rest of it. But let's talk a little bit about what we heard here. So not everyone is going to be able to create a new category. I understand that. But everybody here is able to frame their solution, their business, in a way that maybe it goes in someone else's category, or maybe you create your own. But I really like this idea of getting people to think differently about your solution. So I'm just curious if anybody has any reaction. Before I ask you that question, I want to bring up something that I was thinking about over the weekend as I thought about this class. I really like the Beach Boys. I like their music. I have ever since I was a little kid. And I realized that as best as I could tell, and there may be some of you could correct me, but is there really anyone else in their category? Surf music, if that's the right category, or I don't know if I'd call it beach music. It's more surf music. And I thought of Jan and Dean and a couple others, but realistically, the Beach Boys are in a category of their own. And you could argue that they are, in fact, unique and different, like no one else, even though at the time they came out, Elvis was big, a whole bunch of musicians. You had, of course, the British Invasion with the Beatles and the Rolling Stones. And the Beach Boys really stood alone, in my view, as I look back on those years, as the only folks who really defined the surf music scene, with maybe a few possible exceptions. So that's a perfect example, I guess, of a category, somebody who got you to think about surfing, which I, of course, never thought about, being born nowhere near the ocean. So I think that's a really good example of a category. So with that, I'll just open up to you all and any questions you might have or thoughts on the subject. Anybody? Quandale?
Oh, no, I'm thinking through. Sometimes a statement sort of stands out. One of the statements that the gentleman mentioned, and I'm sorry, I tapped in a little late today, was that sometimes you have to move on from one idea to another, as opposed to spending a lot of time on one idea.
Right.
I thought that that made a lot of sense in relation to design.
Yeah, I think also the point he makes is, when you're coming up with a product, you're coming up with a name, then you may well want to trademark it or protect it. But when you're trying to create a category, you actually want to be known as the solution in that category. So you don't want to keep people from joining the category or using it, because it only helps you. So I thought that's what I got out of it that I thought was good.
As you was thinking, I'm thinking, which is another category, and the Beyond Meat that's not necessarily a company. Would that be a category?
No, that is a company in the plant-based meat category.
Right. Okay.
The category is
Okay.
called plant-based meat, and Beyond Meat, and another one called Impossible Foods. They seem to be the two leaders in that space right now. Beyond Meat, I would argue, is the category leader. I don't really know. It's not something
Gotcha.
to keep up with, but yeah. I think another example is Kleenex, right? Kleenex is a brand. It's a Kleenex or whatever else you call it. I'm not even sure. But that's a category also. In fact, it's even a verb. It's not a verb. That's not correct. It's a noun. It defines something, and there are Windexes in that category. Probably a lot more. I can't think about the top of my head, but those are really strong examples from consumer product goods over the years. Elena, what do you think about this stuff? You're on mute. You're still on mute.
Am I on mute
There
now?
we go. I can hear you
Okay.
now.
You can hear me. Okay, well, really is what he spoke, it in many ways doesn't apply maybe to my product. But yes, I do have categories and things, and there's different ways. I do agree with that there's different ways to reach the public, and sometimes we have to change that. But I mean, really, from there on, I don't have nothing else to say.
Yeah, well, I think that someone in your situation, maybe it's a new category of jewelry. I don't know. It's something we'd have to spend some time on. Maybe there's a way to create something, but I understand what you're saying. Let's see. How about John Arnold? John, what do you have to think about all this?
Having a little bit of problem, Dennis, wrapping my mind around all the things he said, because I'm not real sure in our business, in the snack food business, how we would really go about creating a new category, so to speak. I'm not saying it can't be done. I'm just saying I'm having a hard time kind of wrapping my mind around it.
That's okay. The point really is to expose you to it. It doesn't mean that it's right for you or whatever. But when I think of your company, from what I see as an outsider, I see you as a category, where you're a manufacturer and a retailer, and you are particularly selling live. So the first live selling retailer or whatever. I don't know. I have to think it through, but all of us have a way to define what we're doing, the problem we're solving in different ways. And my goal with this really is not to stump you all or make you feel like you have to, there's one way. It's really just to expose you to this way of thinking, which I think can help everybody, consider what they're doing. Lots of times you'll hear people say, we're the fastest, or we're the first, or we're, whatever, some kind of superlative to describe them. That's really an attempt to define a category as well. The fastest software, the easiest to shop, or the best prices, or whatever. Those are attributes of a category as well as of a brand. Anybody else?
Those are all good thoughts. I appreciate that.
Yeah, no problem. Cam, am I pronouncing it right? How about you? What do you have to think about this? You're with Opal's Candies.
Hey, Dennis. Yeah, I'm kind of like John. I'm trying to wrap my head around, but I'm trying to narrow it down and focus on one particular item in my process. Like in this case, just the brittle. Okay, everybody can make brittle, but I want to stay in my lane of old fashioned. Okay,
Yeah.
so the best old fashioned. Why is it the best old fashioned? Well, now we can go through periods of what actually makes it that way.
Yeah.
Whether more nuts, whether it's just like grandma made on the stove stop. Is it 30-gallon copper pot? No, that's not the case. We're not in that lane. But
Yeah.
it's just trying to identify how we can differentiate and think through things differently that maybe we hadn't thought about before.
Yeah. I think your focus on the word old fashioned, the connecting with some emotion that people have about the past, whether it's fond memories of their grandmas or whatever. But I think you're right. I don't even know if there is such a thing as a category called old fashioned candy. Maybe there is. I've never heard of it. But there's no reason why you can't start educating the consumers about what makes a candy old fashioned, and what are those attributes, and you can start to describe them. And it's not, to me, it's not just the brittle. It's just this concept of building on what has worked for a really long time. Not new, not a flash in the pan, proven, all those kinds of words might help in that respect.
No, that's good information. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Well, go ahead. Somebody speaking up? I'm sorry.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah, now I can.
I think the best way to look at it is everybody in the class with your business, everything is unique. Everybody does something uniquely to themselves within their business. And, it's kind of like when you think about music nowadays, or even just look at the Olympics, even though we went there as a whole country, they broke down what each state uniquely was great in the Olympics for. So each business has something that no other business is doing, like no one is promoting a hat like Quindale. No one's making an old fashioned or old school type of candy like the last gentleman. So we just have to look at it as bringing that way of a category, your uniqueness of the business as a category. And I think that's what everybody can look at and find out what is unique about your business.
Yeah. Well, I think, this is obviously something, it's going to take some work to kind of get to the place we want to get to. But I did want to take a second. So I wanted to show you guys a little bit of,
anything, all the copies you
I'm
get.
going to show you a little bit of the Raw Plastic Show from Friday, just a couple minutes worth. I want to just point out a couple things. But one of the things that you all have the opportunity to do is really be the first live streaming e-commerce player in your space. And that may not be a category. I would argue that you could make it one, at least in the beginning, because almost nobody is really doing this if you really think about it. But I did want to share with you what these guys did on Friday. I thought it was really good. John's show was good as always. I watched that as well. But this one is, I don't know if you're familiar with Alan Boyd in our class, but I just wanted to share a little bit about what these guys were doing. I think it was pretty cool. So let me just take a second here.
Gas station and things like that. Those lids that they put on those are all number 6, which is polystyrene as well. Yeah, so those are the 3 we use right now. We're currently working on being able to expand. But they all use different. They'll have different properties, different melting points, different ways they work. So we're kind of we're learning as we go with this stuff. So we will eventually be able to use all of them. But this is where we're at so far. So good question. Thank you.
And speaking of how we've gotten where so far, like I said earlier, we're hand cutting plastic, things like that. We've now upgraded some machineries. We've been able to afford a plastic shredder, so that's automated, and we're hand cutting.
And we're hand cutting.
And we're able to expand into machines a lot more than just sprinkling stuff in a silicone mold. We now have compression ovens, injection molding, and our newest machine, extrusion.
So I just want to take a couple seconds here to just point this out, because some of you are looking at going live. First of all, what I like is their set is very different, being outdoors with the view of the river where they actually get their plastic that they collect from. I thought was pretty cool. The other thing is they're telling their story. Okay, so like Branson was just talking about, each of you are unique, and one of the problems with e-commerce and online sales, it's very difficult to convey who you are and what makes you unique and what the value of your solution, your brand is. And in this one, which is on our YouTube channel, these guys are just talking. They're telling their story. If you watch the whole thing, you'll get a little bit more of a sense of what they're doing. But they tell the reason they got into it, how they collect their plastic, how they pull it out of the river and get volunteers. They talk about the different people who help them, the breweries in the community, and so forth. And I think it's just a really good kind of perspective that I thought. And they made a few sales. They got some subscribers to their show. So every time they go live, those people will be notified. So they may end up being returned. But I did want to share that with everybody just so you could get a sense of what they were doing. I thought it was really good. And I had nothing to do with anything. They didn't even tell me they were doing it. I actually found out from Pop Shop. They sent me an email and told me that Raw was going live. So I just wanted to share that with everybody. All right. Any other thoughts, opinions, questions might have? Okay. Well, we're going to do the last half of this tomorrow. And then on Wednesday, we're going to hear from a guy named John Rothenberger, who's an old friend of mine, an entrepreneur who's done very well and has never used venture capital. He's always bootstrapped his businesses. So I think you'll find him interesting, and hopefully that'll be enjoyable. And then let's see what else we got here. I'm trying to look on Thursday. I'm going to try to, I don't know if we're going to be able to do this or not, but the TikTok small biz party, I've got the link in there. I don't know. I'm going to look at that and see if you have to register in order to see it. Sometimes I have a problem sharing somebody else's Zoom, but that's a really good thing. That's showing small businesses how to use TikTok. So I highly recommend it, even if it means you have to go directly to them and not through our class. That's fine. I'll provide the link on our Facebook page. I think I already have, but that platform is really seeing a lot of traction, and it might be something you take a look at. I know some of our companies, again, please keep those cards and letters coming, comments, emails. I love it. If you're not on the Facebook group, please join. There's tons of stuff there that can be helpful to you. And once again, thank you very much for your time, attention, and your questions. All right. See everybody later. Take care.
Dennis.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.